Okay, so we'll be doing this online, offline format, so trying to make both groups happy. So we're also going to do an interactive part today. That's also why the people in the room received a paper and a pen. We're still students, actually, Tjerk and I, so we're all about education and learning by doing. So that's what we're going to be doing today as well. For people online, don't worry, we'll get you through. You just can grab yourself a piece of paper and a pen, and then, of course, we'll manage. So let's start. Yes, so first by introducing ourselves a bit, maybe. Well, I'm Nienke, sitting next to me is Tjerk. And we're students from the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands, and we're currently doing our Master of Science in Innovation Sciences. And now you might wonder what that is, because everything has to do with innovation, especially in these smart city projects. But we're looking at innovation from a higher point of view. So we're not really innovating ourselves, but we're looking to measure, to define, and to kind of steer innovation in the direction we want to go in, especially sustainability here, I would say, but also on the aspects of, for example, health. And we were hired for the last term of our first year, last year, to do a project within the ATELIER project. That makes us combine our knowledge and put it into a real life case. So that's what we did, and that's what we'll be doing today as well. Yeah, we were hired by the project manager that had a really pressing question that we will see in a minute. And we've been actively working on this case in the energy transition. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick schedule to see what you can expect today. Of course, the first 5 minutes were walking. After this, we'll give you a case description and some background information on, well, what theory we use to solve it. After this, we will get active and we will reflect on it right away. And this is the case on the PED project, as you know, probably. And after this, we can have a small group debate on your own projects and how you can apply this knowledge really at the same time to your own context. And after that, we will have the concluding remarks. Okay. So for this, the learning goals of this workshop today, it might be nice if I ask you some questions. So for the people online, you can put it in the Q&A, we can also read that, but there are some statements and we're just really wondering who we're dealing with now. So the first statement is, I'm currently involved in a multi-stakeholder project. Please put up your hand if you are. Yes, okay, those are a lot, of course, we expected that. And also, next statement, I'm familiar with what a PED, a positive energy district, entails. Okay, we have a knowledgeable crowd already. And then the third statement is, I am aware of the application of innovation theory in these types of projects. So, are we? Well, that's actually good. That's good, because that's what we're about to teach you. So you can also take lessons from this. So pretty excited to get you started on this type of thinking, really from an innovation perspective. So what we want to learn you today is a better understanding of large project management and understanding. The application of innovation theories to these projects, and also to reflect it to your own context, because of course eventually you have to do something with this knowledge, and we hope we'll give you the tools to that. Okay, then first, well, I would be able to introduce this problem to you, but who better to introduce this problem than the one who gave us this problem? So let me get Mark up to the stage and take over from me.
Thank you, thank you. I have been involved with large research and innovation projects for a long time, but this one, ATELIER, is far the most interesting creative as well as the most complex one. So no surprise that this question arises in this project. Oh, what happened here? So it's the Ryzen 2020 project. So it's big, it's holistic, it's expensive. It's about demonstrating the added value of finding solutions for energy innovation on a district scale, not a building scale, but a district scale, both in the direction towards climate neutrality, energy innovation, as well as social and economic impact as well. So that we will have demonstration projects. We're building new positive energy districts in Amsterdam and Bilbao. We talk about a project of 20 million. In 5 years, we have 30 plus partners, as it is typically the case in these kind of research and innovation projects. And I've stopped counting, but there are at least 100 people involved in the different partners and teams and work packages. So this is a bit of the complexity and scale of our project. And this is not the only project, but in total in this Smart Cities and Communities program, 18 projects have been funded. So on the right-hand side, you see the number of cities that are now currently in these kind of projects, dealing with positive energy district, digitalization in smart cities, but all have very much in common. So this is the playing field we start with. We were, of course, happy to win this project 2 years ago. This is, just a couple of pictures on what we are going to do in Amsterdam. In Amsterdam, if you are aware, across the river, Central Station, across the river on the north-hand side, there's a lot of development, previous industry also, a lot of redevelopment where we want to build a positive energy district, highly energy efficient, highly density of renewable energy, also storage facilities, smart charging, e-mobility integration, energy citizenship, all integrated in one concept, with the idea that people will be happy to live it, they're sustainable and a positive energy balance. But then the first question is complexity. Okay, I hope you can read it. Is you deal with a wide range of innovations, from battery storage to social interventions. You deal with a lot of different disciplines. You see in the gray area are all the disciplines that are involved in the project. If you can imagine going into a neighborhood, going into a district with a lot of people from different disciplines, the energy technology guy will see the photovoltaics on the roof. The economists will see the startups, and the sociologists will see the neighborhood center, where people. So they see completely different things in the district. And this project is about finding a common ground to, in an interdisciplinary way, address these issues, which is challenges. That makes the things life very complicated. And then we have a lot of range of different activities, from building the PEDs, monitoring innovation, from economic activities, from social interventions to scaling to education, and that all within one project. So often I get confused by this project myself, even though I'm in it full time. So what is then important for us? This project is always typically structured, okay, these are the deliverables, these are the results. And we work towards the results, and we work towards the deliverables. They are often in different work packages. And if you get your delivery on time, you get paid. However, there is a lot of intrinsic challenges which are not placed within the work package, but need to be dealt with. And I have a couple of them. First of all, what is the impact we want to achieve with these positive energy districts? It's climate, it is environment, it is social, it is economic. So, and every discipline sees another set of objectives. So there needs to be consensus on what is this PED supposed to do, not only within the project, but within all the other projects that are dealing with it. It is strongly promoted by the European Union, but with the objective of achieving this cross-sectoral, but what does it mean? What is important, and what is it? And we need within the project to achieve that kind of consensus, and that's a learning activity. what are the contribution of our project? This is not just the deliverables. It is what impact, what do we want to make? How can we speed up this development towards the society? And how can we do that? And that is not written down in the proposal. That's something you learn along the way. Huh? So there needs to be attention of collectively within the project address that and address the questions. Yeah, and how do we really come to the impact, let's say greenhouse gas emissions, through? So there is a logical pathway, a key impact pathway, which is a different one from for the technology intervention as to the social intervention. They talk in really different kind of interventions, but we want to achieve the same goal. So there we need to think about what we are really doing in influences. And this is not enough to write it in the proposal and then do not come back to that in 5 years. You need to revisit, to rethink and learn. A very important learning aspect is especially with this large, complex, holistic project, is there's a huge gap between the research and innovation community and the results of the project and those people in the cities that need to do something with that on a daily basis. And the municipality is not a holistic organization. You have these different departments that deal with mobility or with housing. So there's a big gap, and we need to learn, especially when these concepts and these solutions become more holistic, how to reach out to the municipality and make sure that the civil servant or the planning has something useful from our project to provide added value for its daily operation, and that's also a learning aspect. And then the most challenging, from monodisciplinary work to multidisciplinary. Now we have the energy analyst that calculates the energy system, we have the sociologist that works with the citizens, and never will the two meet, but that needs to change. So we need to come up with new interdisciplinary research approaches. So this is never explicitly covered by an activity or a work package. It's implicit. It is cross-cutting in a project like this. So, and that's basically our learning agenda. But then we think about this, how are we going to do that? What is the best way to do that? Is it coming together in workshop, or is it another way of method or other instruments? How to get everybody on board? All the 30 partners need to agree. What kind of innovation, because we are dealing with innovation pathways, what innovation theory could we apply to follow our progress throughout the project? So, and we're just facing this question, and then the request came from these students in innovation science, do you have something useful for us to do? Can we help you? And that was a perfect match. So what I have done is thought about it and drafted a report, and obviously then this workshop came along and said, well, who better to do that than you, because you have advised us. And I think this is, personally I would really like to learn whether or not these questions are also relevant for other projects, and most importantly, how you have addressed them. Have you identified them, how you have addressed them? Because they are big questions and not easy to manage.
Hi, thank you very much, Mark, for introducing the problem. So yeah, when we got the problem from Mark, we went with our group and we looked into what kind of innovation theories we would like to use to study the problem. We've used multiple theories, but by far strategic niche management has been the most valuable theory for us. Strategic niche management is a theory which is often used to research the development of small-scale innovations, so niche innovations, which can be either technological or social innovations, new social arrangements, and how they can develop the best to the mass market. Within the strategic niche management, there is an emphasis on both the current project. So Mark currently already is facing problems in managing the project in terms of the actor network, in terms of what kind of learnings were happening within the project. So there's an emphasis on how to run a project well at the current moment. But also, the strategic niche management is also used to look what you can do best in the future for these kind of projects. And there are three key processes in strategic needs management, which are actually very similar to the problems Mark faced. So the first key process in strategic niche management, which are deemed crucial for the development of small-scale innovations, is your actor network formation. And with actor network formation, we mean what kind of actors are included in the research projects, how are their connections, how are they related to each other and cooperating with each other. So bringing it back to ATELIER, Mark mentioned that there are so many stakeholders, there are so many actors involved in the project, and it's almost impossible, to have an overview of what everybody's doing. So how do you manage that? Secondly, the second key process is forming visions and articulating expectations. Having a common vision is very important in such large projects. So you have a lot of different actors, and with having a common vision of what the project entails and what you want to attain with the project is key for such a project's success. And next to that, it's also very important how you articulate your expectations. So what people expect of the project, both within the project, but also to the wider public. So what the wider public expects of the project. And lastly, your learning processes. So this is coupled back to the future. So how you can learn from the project, but also how you can feed it back into the project over its course. So yeah, I've surely touched upon this. Actor network formation are the actors involved in the network and also their connections. And strategic niche management firstly sets up three key processes, and by delving deeper into the literature, we have divided all the key processes up into sub-processes to make it more tangible. So what we're looking at is the three sub-processes, which are driving the actor network, managing the actor network, and the brokerage between actors, especially of different backgrounds. So what we mean with driving the actor network, then we're looking at what kind of actors are involved in the network. So which actors are involved? Are there any actors missing? Are there any skills within your project or competences missing within your project? And should you include more actors than you currently have? Or on the other hand, are there some actors which are partly or mostly doing the same? But you can also think of the characteristics of the actors involved in your network. So, for example, what is the size of the actors? Are there a lot of really large actors involved in your project or smaller ones? What kind of disciplines are they from? What is their role, etc.? Managing the network then looks at the connection between these actors, and also looks at how the collaboration and the cooperation between all the actors is. And at last, brokerage between actors refers to information transmission. So within such large projects, oftentimes the actors are not all together connected towards each other. They don't work with each other as much as other actors in the project. So it's very important to brokerage between these actors, to have some of the stakeholders, some of the actors to transmit information between the other actors who are not directly connected with each other. Second process was visions and expectations. So what all of these stakeholders want to attain with the project, what they expect the project to, what the effect of the project is. We have again also divided it into 4 sub-processes. So for the vision, it is important to create a shared vision. So how do you create a shared vision? How can you come to something together? And as well, how do you maintain a shared vision? So once you have developed a shared vision, how do you maintain it? How do you make sure that everybody is directed to the same course? And how do you prevent friction from happening in this? It's also important to create solid and trustworthy expectations, which legitimize the project, for example, also to the wider public. And then again, how you form public expectations, or how you articulate everything, and how you showcase your entire project. Looking at learning processes, we're talking about what is learned and how this is learned within the system. And there are two things crucial to this. So, first of all, learning is often happening everywhere in such large projects, but it's oftentimes not very well captured. And learning often remains very embedded within the actors and not really shared among the whole actor network. So that is an important point. As well within such large projects is that there is so much to learn in so many new ways, in so many methods, that you just have to choose what you want to learn from the project. So what is the most important that you want to learn from the project, and how you want to learn that. So we have again divided it into 4 sub-processes. First one is about process learning, which refers to the type of learning in your project. So for example, you can learn a lot about facts and data, but it's also important to learn about processes. So for example, how you tackle a problem within a project, but also linking it back to the earlier 2 key processes, actor network formation and vision. It's also very important to learn about these kind of processes. Also to promote second order learning. So we have first order learning and second order learning. First order learning refers to the accumulation of facts and data. So, so for example, when you're learning about Rome and its history, you can learn every date out of your head when, for example, a new Caesar came to power, which is referred to first order learning. And second order learning really looks at, or is it a way of learning which changes your view about things, which changes your interpretive frame and, for example, the perspective on something. So, for example, if you learn about the history of Rome and you learn about their different social orders, you can think it's beneficial or not really beneficial for the development of Rome, and incorporate it into your view of a present-day social order and how it should be monitored and how it should be done. So it really changes your perspective. Within such large projects, especially with so many stakeholders and so many different disciplines represented within the project, it's very important to have a shared language. So often, as Mark already struggled with as well, you have so many disciplines and they just don't really understand each other. It's very important to develop a shared language from which you can build and which you can share lessons. And lastly, it is very important to constantly monitor and evaluate what you have learned, and also evaluate what you're doing in the project itself, so that you can feed it back into the project. Okay, you are already familiar with the PAD, so we have set up a video which tells you a bit about a PAD and what it entails. But I think from the crowd everybody raised up his hand, so maybe it's a bit redundant to share it. Yeah, let's do it anyway? Okay, sure.
The European Union aims to be climate neutral by 2050, an economy with net zero greenhouse gas emissions. Ambitious goal, isn't it? But how can we achieve this? Smart cities have an essential role in this transition. Smart cities are using technological solutions and social innovations to improve the urban environment and contribute to the climate goals. We have to rethink and replan the way we use and generate energy in our living environment. Improving energy efficiency by retrofitting and by building new efficient buildings, as well as by integrating more renewable energy production in the building environment, solutions.
Positive energy districts can speed up the implementation of these. If we only create separate, near-zero energy buildings in cities and we don't connect them, we miss many opportunities for technical and economic optimization through collective energy production and storage. Positive energy districts are energy efficient and energy flexible urban areas or groups of connected buildings They produce net zero greenhouse gas emissions and actively manage an annual local or regional surplus production of renewable energy. The flexibility in the energy system allows the matching of local renewable energy production with energy demand through local energy storage. Photovoltaics produces electricity during the day, and electric vehicles need power to charge in the evening. Positive Energy District is a complex innovation with many aspects, from urban planning to energy system innovations and ICT applications, from citizen engagement to new business model and legal framework and governance. The success of implementing Positive Energy Districts will depend on the integration of technical solutions and social, political, and business innovations. To develop Positive Energy Districts, technical solutions can help people living and working in the Positive Energy District use less energy or use energy in a more flexible way during the day. More and more energy communities are discussing and organising their shared energy use, sharing the energy grid and trading energy. Together, we learn more and more about the development of Positive Energy Districts in different cities, sharing experiences and knowledge on a daily basis. Would you like to know more about Positive Energy Districts? Follow our e-learning module explaining all.
Yes, so I think we've heard enough already in this presentation, but also today in general, a lot of information. So let's get to work and design our own PED system. And how we're going to do this, I'll explain to you now. The first thing we're going to do is to apply the key processes Tjerk just explained to the case of a PED. We have some questions on this that you can just walk through, and in this way think about it from a strategic niche management point of view. You do have to remember that all pets are different, and there is not one true pet, especially not at this stage. As Mark already mentioned, a lot of research is going into this, but at the moment, and also in all contexts, nothing is the same. So the pets also aren't the same. So keep this in mind. And also, while saying that, think about your own context and design your own PED system that will work in your context, and approach this from a systems perspective. So think about the actors in a PET system in the larger context instead of focusing on one and thinking about what they can do. Putting the system central instead of putting one actor central will make it maybe a lot more clear to identify the leverage points of this system we're working with. So a lot of times when you are an actor in a system, you tend to reason from your own point of view, which is completely logical, but then at the same time, it might be a refreshing perspective to show this also from the system's perspective and to understand why all the actors are also stakeholders in this. Yes, so let's get active then. First we'll work on the actor network formation. So that kind of speaks for itself. What we're going to do is you've all received a piece of paper or you have a notebook. At home you can also have a piece of paper and notebook. And we're going to map about 10 actors that you think are stakeholders or are influenced by the implementation of a PET in your context. Which actors are involved and what should be kept in mind when forming this. On the slide you can see a small example from a wastewater treatment plant. There are actors involved such as, well, the wastewater treatment plant itself, but also the municipality, policymakers, chlorine producers that produce, of course, the thing that is going to get the water clean again, and citizens. And then the next step, when you've mapped about 10 of these, is to show the connection of these actors to each other. So in what way are they connected? or are they disconnected to each other? So here you can see the wastewater water treatment plant is in contact with the municipality about the ground they are on, or the way they function, or what they should expect. If there are more houses built, they should know this to not overdo their capacity, but also policymakers on a regional level, on a national level, they affect the wastewater treatment plant, but also the chlorine producers. They put limits to what they can do within society. And the citizens, I think, are mainly in contact with the municipality, but that's in my context. Maybe in your context, that's completely different. You could also maybe link them to the wastewater treatment plant because they are working there. So it's really up to you how you connect these to each other. Yeah. And then the next thing is, Jack spoke about this as well, is that there is or should be a knowledge broker in the system that will dissemble the information it gets from all parties to the parties and kind of make sure that knowledge is disseminated. You can, well, put a circle around it and see if the knowledge broker, we can identify it as the actor that has most connections. So here it's the wastewater treatment plant with 3 connections. And do we also want that actor to be the knowledge broker, or do we want it to be the municipality? So you can think about that. And then as the last question is, how do they cooperate, and what could impair effective collaboration? How can they disagree on things, and how this is solved, and again, how can it be overcome? And that's also something we want you to think about. So if that's clear, if there are no questions on this, then let's get to work. Also for the people online, if there are any questions, please put it in the chat. Yeah? Let's go.
You can also, if you want to discuss with everybody else in the room, you can also discuss it while making it.
When you talk about after network formation, like you're talking about actor involving a PED project or some other project, or
Yeah. So
when you talk about a PED project, you specifically referring to CD, like something that is related to possible energy between cities, like what's the connection between a PED and a wastewater treatment plant?
well, yeah, good question. The connection is not really there. So this is just an example, and the exercise is to think about all the actors, or the stakeholders as well, which can be involved in setting up a PED. So in this example, we just took a wastewater treatment plant, and we thought about all the actors involved in such a project. So you can do the same for PED. So first think about the actors involved, and you can place them on the outside, so you can draw a circle with all the actors, and you can connect the lines and go on from there. But so it's entirely up to you. You can get involved in the PED in your context.
Yeah. Jack, maybe you can explain it again
Okay.
in the microphone.
All right, so also for the people online, so we got the question what the connection is between the waste water treatment plants and a PED. So there was a bit confusion about that. There's only a connection between it. So the wastewater treatment plants is just an example for what you can do now. So that's the format for what you can do. And you can do the same for PED. So you can start by thinking about the actors involved in setting up a PED project, and you can arrange them in a circle as well. So which we have done here in the example. Then you can draw lines between the actors, and from there you can work further on.
Another question is, you say 10, but then immediately you want to differentiate, because if you say municipality, it's of course the stakeholder, but then you have different departments, which you have also very different conditions. And you have, so you can at least 3 different departments with municipality, different competency, different capacity, different departments, so they actually are 3 different players in the field.
Yeah.
So how to avoid that it gets too complicated?
Yeah, good question. So I'll just repeat the question for the people online as well. So somebody from the audience asked, well, within one actor there can be different actors. So the example was within the municipality there can be 3 very important departments in the municipality, which should be in the actor network. So I think it's up to you. That's the answer. So if you think those 3 departments are that much different from each other and should all be included in the actor network, you can use all the 3 of them. If you think they are very resemblant for each other and they are very closely connected to each other, you can write it as a municipality itself. So you can think about what the 10 most important actors for you in a PED project are.
Learning and then you come back to it again? Is it better to start with a limited number of stakeholders and then during this iteration become more detailed?
So yeah, of course you can begin with, again, we're online. So the question was whether we're also gonna speak about the visions and the expectations and the learning immediately right now, or whether it's better to begin with a lot of stakeholders, begin with everything you can think about, and then connect it. I'm also just repeating it for the people now. So yeah, good question. We're also going to talk about the visions and expectations, and we're also going to talk about, or after that, we're going to discuss the learning processes. So during this, we're only going to look at the actor network formation, and for that, you can just start by placing up all the actors and then connecting the lines to them.
No. Just curious, how far are you with the actor network? How far in the process are you?
Listing the train collapse. Still stuck at the 8. Tomorrow we cannot come up with anything for now.
The 8 is also.
Yeah, it's
so
fine. Yeah, sure.
It's also really good, I think.
Min Nienke en min mij? 2. Hello.
Yeah, this is just an example. That's just an example, and then we want to have to about two. We did something except everybody beforehand the answer. If you have any questions. Looks like a complete drawing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would you like your paper back? Should have. The exercise is to also do the same as
Every time we put something on the table in your life, it should have been presented everywhere. So we'll see what the
Yeah, that's good. Very slow. Sometimes relations are unclear. So,
there are more relationships than what we can actually represent.
yeah, yeah.
so anything that I hear is just
Even kijken, wordt ze niet 10 over?
Ja, zeg maar.
Kan dit voor 5 minuten bespreken? Nog 10 minuten, ja. Alright, so I hope everybody is proceeding well. You have 2 minutes and then we're gonna discuss the actual network. So try to finish up quickly. course, you don't have to do it perfect. It's only as exercise. We have a bottle of water and a couple of cups. Sure, sorry.
Yes. Okay. So I still hear some discussion, but I think we have to move on. But it's good. So thinking about this in another way, I already heard that it's too hard to map every relationship that is there to define it. That's exactly the purpose of this exercise. It is sometimes really hard to define these relationships. So that's a good first outcome, I would say. But then let's move to the reflection. First, the actors and connections. I'm very curious, what kind of actors did you have?
Well, there are many in a positive energy district. I mean, we go from the citizenship itself, because at the same time they are users and producers of the energy. But around them, there is a lot of different institutions from as well as developers to the municipality that regulates the life of the community. But another important role is played by the society that commonly regulates and manages the energy fluxes. And so, our links are becoming many.
Yeah, there are many links, and also maybe even a lot of subsystems within the system. We couldn't get into that too much in this presentation, but we did look at these kind of subsystems ourselves and whether they are connected. So we can give you more information on that after the session, possibly. Others? What kind of actors did you have?
Also many, and they're very different in character. They're very different in talk about municipality, commercial, contractors, so reflection on the type of connections. But it's still difficult at what level do you want to start in. But I thought the municipality, you have at least 3-4 different players. Within the municipality, I involved in the project completely different. Involvements, so actually they are different. They should be different. So, but I guess it's subjective. You work with a mapping and then you see whether you can use it effectively into the learning framework. More of the details. So I think after actors is private sector, for private sector, and a special role for knowledge institutes, these kind of institutes and information, so they play always a dominant role, and then the public sector, and the public sector is always NGO and private sector. So this is incredible feeling.
But I think it's very nice that you say that there are within the municipality, for example, there
are 3 different actors. So that is partly what is effective in doing such a thing. You very consciously think about all of the actors involved and their relations towards each other, and whether they should be seen separately or whether they are one actor which should be treated the same. So yeah, that's what we want to attain.
Yes, okay, so good results on that. Then we'll take a look at what we had. This is not our official result, that's a bit more complicated. But we had actors such as the local energy communities that Mark already talked about, municipality, citizens, inhabitants, very important also, the energy suppliers, also the supplier of technologies or innovations, citizen engagement initiatives, local policymakers, mobility operators. It includes a lot of things, and this is just a start here. Then I think we'll move on to the broker function. Who do you distinguish as a broker here? Did we come to that already?
The policymakers seen as the, like, in our opinion, seen as the policymakers is above everyone else, like the one who influences the actions that will be made in the future or in the present. So what I see I think that you're gonna answer with municipality, right?
Well, I see.
Okay. So maybe we're one step like too much above what is in fact the program.
There is no right or wrong answer, of course. So if you wanted to be the policymaker, then you can be the policymaker. But I think, well, for us it's also not the case, but maybe when thinking about who should be the broker, you can also think about somebody who is really embedded in the network and is really also maybe close to research, for example, because the municipality might not be as close to this research as you would like municipality to be. So it can also be technology or innovation providers. But it's important to distinguish this and to also communicate it.
Like university they have research innovation agenda. So basically, you would expect them to take that role. But in our project, it was never discussed. It was of course a separate expectation on monitoring. So implicitly would say that it's then the part of the program, but it's not the same. So this is also an open eye-opener. We never discussed this. And who should it be? And now it's a problem, it's an additional job. So if you say you know something needs to do with some work. So this was a flaw in the design thinking about programs.
Yes, thank you for this example. And then also on the point of cooperation and collaboration, I think I'll take you through that now with a bit more theory, what we researched. So here I'm going to discuss three main pillars of network formations. So when you think about driving active network, you can think about including smaller and non-traditional actors. I think we've all heard about the incumbent schools, and here when you include, maybe even startups or SMEs or really innovative companies that you might not directly think about, they can also be a driver of this active network and pull everything together. And it's also important to have a constant assessment of who should leave or join this network. So in most projects we see that in the beginning we establish some kind of structure and that's what we'll keep to for the rest of the time. So even if it's 5 years, 10 years, the project might need something completely different 2 years in. Why don't you reassess it and see who is needed instead of trying to get this knowledge from the actors that aren't really, cannot really deliver it. So that's also really important here. And then also the managing of the active network. What we came across was the creation of the dedicated network building. This is actually the task, again, somebody's task, a kind of a broker function, but also a project leader that brings a network together, creating meetings, bringing them together, monitoring potential barriers of cooperation. It's important to also check this every once in a while and ensure individuals or actors are not isolated. Because when you work in isolation, you might go in a completely different direction. And I think that's what we're going to talk about right now. So I'll give the... Oh, I have one more, I'm sorry. The brokerage between actors, of course, build close and personal relationships and transmit information and translate to a common language that everybody understands. So even technological actors and social actors, they should at least understand each other and communicate on the same level. So check.
All right. Okay, so we've discussed visions and expectations shortly, and we established that having a common vision within your project is very important for the direction of the whole project, and in a sense that every actor is working towards the same goal. So what we're going to do now, you have your actor network, you have all the actors involved, and you also have drawn lines between the actors for which you think are connected with each other, are collaborating with each other, or at least in direct connections. So what we're going to do now is we're going to think about the incentives of the different actors to be part of the system. So again, relating it to Mark, Mark had a lot of actors involved in this project, but many of the actors had different incentives for joining the project. And that oftentimes could lead to friction, but it also could lead to visioning the whole project in a different manner. So we're going to think about that, where can incentives differ, and how can this lead to friction within the system, and also decouple the common vision. So emphasize these lines. I've given some of you, for example, a red pen, so you can draw red lines if you want, or just put a minus next to it. And also note down where you think incentives can differ and how this can lead to friction. But also actively think about how friction can be prevented. So when you have a common vision, or when you create one, how do you make sure that this does not fall apart when going further into the project? So how can friction be prevented, and how do you create and maintain a common vision? And please note that down. So I think we're gonna do this for 10 minutes or so. You can think about it for 10 minutes, and then we're gonna continue and discuss the results again.
It's pretty, yeah. And I start thinking about my list of frictions becomes bigger and bigger. And my solutions is still on the floor. Yeah, that's right now. Yeah.
Oh, ik dacht niet dat hij waren. Oh, echt?
Ik heb één probleem. Zeg maar, jij krijgt ook wel een beetje een Barca-spel is wel gewoon tegen mij.
Ja, ik weet het. Maar tegen wie? Tegen wie?
Benfica. Maar maakt in principe niet zo uit. Al speelden ze tegen FC Groningen. Had ik niet van hem. Zoals tegen Volendam. Nee, ik heb het wel.
Zeg maar als je dat echt ook even doet, zeggen.
Nee, dat gaat niet. Echt van geen geval.
Ja, ik vind het leuk.
Ja, oké, maar ja, zeg maar voetbal van elkaar altijd. En waarom wil je niet over hebben? In de tweede helft zo overgaan.
Ja, maar überhaupt vind ik het zo om 10 uur thuis zijn.
Als we gaan 2 uur, als ik nog 2 uur dus om 8 uur gaan, dan 10 uur thuis. Een boerenbedrijf. Ja, 2 boeren zijn in de buurt.
Mensen.
Ja, dan moet ik dat echt dingen doen.
All right, just 3 more minutes.
Nee, ik ga wel even snel doen. Je moet rapido, ja? Nou, ik vind het mooi.
Right, okay, let's continue. Yeah, so I think you, or I hope that you've also all came up with differing incentives between all of these actors and how it can lead to friction. So anybody from the audience, could you maybe just give an example of where you think friction can happen or incentives can differ and how this can lead to friction?
Well, I can start on what is the money? The subsidized research and education projects, like sometimes partners see this kind of engagement as additional work. Oh, I need to go to a new workshop, but it doesn't contribute to my deliverable, but I need to share stuff. I don't have money. So, while others have more money because of the deliverable. So that's an important point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's closely related to the intrinsic motivation of an organization to engage.
Yeah.
First, you engage, as part of your job, as commercial product development, that may be different.
Mm-hmm.
In combination with the available resources can lead to friction. Some parts are happy to go to workshops to share stuff with other partners.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Clear. Others as well?
Well, we kind of agree with what Sir there said. Potential friction rises whenever actors go in different directions,
Yep.
when their targets are different. So we can measure our project, but this is something we see every day in our life. Companies commonly target higher revenues, high economic margins, when normally people tend to target a higher life standard.
Mm-hmm.
Not specifically regarding money. In the case of life standard, in this case is energy available at any time, when they don't have to bother about providing energy. But this doesn't mean this is economic.
Mm-hmm.
So the energy provider can agree or not with this.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Very good. All right. So yeah. So you talked about indeed when people want to go in a different direction. Oftentimes friction is happening. So do you have any idea in general how that can be overcome, or how you can maybe prevent that from happening? How you can commonly come towards something in which you both would benefit? Maybe a hard question, but would be the golden answer.
I think it's what is a common vision. A common vision of what this project is supposed to do, and then an openness and transparency among partners, what is that they can contribute. And that's beyond the work plan. It's not the work plan that this needs to be done. Okay, that's easy, but what the overall vision, the project, what impact we want to achieve, and who's going to contribute to that. It's a level deeper than just the deliverables. It could from the start be more open there.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps, I think, reduce friction. So identify the conflicts
Yeah.
Sometimes not all departments are formally present in the project. For example, we were talking about citizenship. Usually citizenship is not a partner in the project. It's just, let's say, like it benefits or not to the outcome of the project. So sometimes citizenship might not agree with what is done in the project or in that involves citizenship itself.
Yeah, very good. I think you all touch upon things which we encountered very much in the project as well with Mark, and what you said on how you can prevent it, so creating common vision and together discuss it and very much identify the points of friction is most important, I think. So these are just some examples which we made for where friction can be, but I think there is a lot of friction, and it's clear for you where it can emerge. Alright, so how friction can be prevented, and how do you form and maintain common vision? Preventing friction already starts actually at the beginning of the project, or at least that's how we saw it and how we researched it. So again, taking it back at the project we researched, a vision for the project was made, and it was, for example, listed in documents, and it was from the top to the down. It was given, if I may share how it went. It was the vision was shared with other actors in the system. So what we found in the literature